Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a fun 7-game NBA slate for you. Before I get started, can you guys smash the like and subscribe button? So do keep in mind that the late games won't be on the slate, and the early game between the Clippers and Denver won't be either. We do have a pretty extensive injury report as we've had to start the season. For Toronto, Quickly is out, and Barrett is doubtful. For Boston, Porzingis and Hauser are out. For the Hornets, Miller and Mark Williams are out. For the Memphis Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson and Kennard are doubtful. Greg Jackson is out. For the Spurs, Vassell and Trey Jones is out. For Detroit, Thompson is out. For Oklahoma City, Hartenstein, Jalen Williams, and Kenrich Williams are out. For the Miami Heat, Richardson and Love are out. From the Cleveland Cavs, Max Stress is out. For Washington, Brogdon is out. Bay is out. For Houston, Eason is out and Adams is doubtful. And for Orlando, Isaac is questionable. So let's go ahead and get our point guards here. So we do like Shea Alexander the best on the slate for this position. He's under $10,000, which gives him a lot of upside because he can have that, 50, 60 fantasy point game. In the first game of the year, he did a little bit of everything. And even if he took away his 10 points for uh, blocks and steals, he would still have paid off pretty closely at least. So he's definitely worth a look here in a better matchup and still being under 10K, which I don't expect will hold for very long. Looking at Tyler Hero, uh, definitely going to have some Kentucky guys in this slate do well with Miami. He's going to have some potential today. He's going to got a couple guys out with injuries there, so he's going to have more run as a result, more of a green light as he always has, but he'll be more of a ball handler today, and he's going to have a really fantastic matchup here against Charlotte, so he's definitely somebody to consider. Jalen Suggs has looked decent fantasy-wise so far, at least in the matchups, but he hasn't really put together a top-tier game yet. But he's capable of that, and I do think he'll get at least 20 fantasy points. The question is if he can get over 25, but it's definitely a matchup where he can, and so he's definitely worth a look. He'll also be pretty high owned. Chris Paul looks solid today for the Spurs with some injuries there. He's going to have some. He should be able to get 25 to 35 minutes most games, and he should be a guy that can get a lot of assists and rebounds. And I don't think he'll have another game, at least right away, where he hits one field goal. So his upside here is really solid at this price point. Looking at our shooting guards, we do like Anthony Edwards a lot today from Minnesota. He's in a favorable situation, and he's been really good in his first two games. The matchup here is really good, and so he's definitely worth a look. He should be a top tier player throughout the season, and he's still kind of underpriced at this point. Tyler Hero can also play here at shooting guard. Trey Mann for Charlotte is a cheap option today in a tougher matchup against Miami, but in the two games he's played so far, he's been really solid. I do think he's going to kind of go back and forth with inconsistencies, especially with Caleb Martin here getting some of the run at times and getting some big fantasy games, and he'll have limited ones. But so far, he's scored the ball very well and hit some threes, so he's definitely worth a look at this price point, though the matchup is not ideal. Then we'll look at Grady Dick, who's going to have more upside as a result of Quickly being out. He hasn't really had. He is a very streaky player, though, so to keep that in mind. And he doesn't get a lot of peripheral stats at times. He also fouled out the last game. But he's definitely capable of a solid game here, and he's definitely worth a look at this price point. And then Zach LaVine, he looks like he's at a really good spot here against Orlando. Now, Orlando is a tougher defensive team, but LaVine has more of a green light and more usage as a result of DeRozan being gone, so he's definitely a guy that you have to be a good look at, and he's definitely a contrarian play off of Tyler Hero or off of Anthony Edwards here. Looking at small forward, Jalen Williams for Oklahoma City looks good today. He's in an interesting spot here. Now he has had some ups and downs in his career, but this matchup is solid for him, so he's definitely worth a look here. I expect him to have a big game, and he does get more upside because of the other injuries on the team. Then we'll also look at Grady Dick here and Zach LaVine. They can both play in at this position, but I'm going to look at two guys for the Spurs, and both Harrison Barnes and Julian Campagny. Both these guys have a lot of potential today. Barnes at $4,400 here. Now he's had one really solid game so far in his first game with them, and he might be a little bit more consistent with Wemby being on the, giving him some more ability to get some balls. I just don't know if he's going to be super consistent, and I do think he's kind of in a timeshare with Julian here at this point, but Julian is going to be a guy that you have to look at this price point. As long as he's going to continue to start right now with Vassal out, he's going to be somebody you have to consider because he had a really big game in this first one, and he kind of did a little bit of everything there, and he shot the ball well. I don't expect his shooting to stay that high, but he can if he can score 15 points, or if he can score 10 points and get some other peripheral stats, he'll definitely pay off today. Looking at our power forwards, Chet Holmgren looks absolutely fantastic. He is my core play of the day. He looks like my favorite play on the slate. He's underpriced for his potential, and I think he's going to have a big game here in a positive matchup. Jalen Williams can also be sit here as well as he was at small forward. And then Jeremy Sochan for the Spurs. Now, he might end up being the odd man out with the guys that are playing well for this team, but he definitely looks like he's got some potential game to game, and so he's definitely worth a look, though his price did come up a little bit. Nas Reed, meanwhile, from Minnesota, looks like he's in that fantastic situation here. And with Towns gone, he's going to get more run and he has more upside. He did struggle in the first game, but I think he bounced back into Sacramento, and this looks like another situation where he should be able to be good, especially with uh, the other injuries to the around. So I think he's in a good spot here. Harrison Barnes can also play at power forward. Looking at our centers, Wendell Carter Jr. is in a fantastic situation here for Orlando. He's been playing very well the first two games in tough matchups. Now he gets another tougher matchup against Edie, but I do think that he's still going to be able to get what he needs, and so he's definitely worth a shot here. Victor Wembanyama, he did struggle his first game, but it was a tougher matchup. I look for him to bounce back here and have a solid game. He has that upside of anybody, so he's definitely worth a look. Chet Holmgren can also play here at center, and like I said, he's a top tier play, and so can Nas Reed. But I also look at Rudy Gobert at this center position. He might be a little underpriced, and once he gets his feet under him, where he's used to playing without Towns, he probably boost his fantasy outfit a little bit more, and he looks really solid today. Though he is maybe not quite ready to be that consistent guy yet with this new way this offense looks. As for the ownership of this slate, for the point guards, Jalen Suggs, Tyler Hero, Dante DaVincenzo, and SGA. I think Suggs is the guy that you could kind of go away from, but man, if he has a big game like he's capable, then he could hurt you. For the shooting guards, Tyler Hero, Dante DaVincenzo, and Zach LaVine. Now, LaVine does look really good, but I think that you could also substitute in Jalen Williams at small forward if you were thinking about LaVine at small forward, then you could use either one of those guys. They're kind of interchangeable because the small forward usage is going to go to Jalen Williams and Zach LaVine and Jason Tatum. For the power forwards, Jalen Williams, Paulo Ventura, Jason Tatum, and Chet Holmgren. And then for the centers, Rudy Gobert, Wendell Carter Jr., and Chet Holmgren. I do think Holmgren is the best overall option on the slate, and he's definitely going to be the guy that I use the most. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments,